The Fire Within podcast. You need a sustainable plan, the right mindset, and the knowledge and inspiration to stoke the fire within. Just like the phoenix, you can burn your old habits, never turn back, and emerge completely anew. There are no shortcuts.
Welcome, Fire Within community. This is the Fire Within podcast, where we talk about all things health, fitness, and nutrition related. I'm your host, Brandon, with my co-host, Joe.
Hello.
How's it going, Joe?
It's going good. It's going good. Did you enjoy Thor? We saw each other at the theater. Thor 4, Love and Thunder.
Definitely the weirdest Marvel movie I've seen.
Did you know that? So he has a fitness app out.
What?
Yeah, it's called Center, and you can look like him. So apparently he just sold it. He sold it to a capital group, a private equity group, Mark Bezos Group, who is actually the younger brother of Jeff Bezos. But so working out pays off, kids, because he just sold his app for $200 million.
Holy crap. That's
and if you've seen the new Thor movie, there's a scene where you see the Thor.
You see all of Thor.
See all of Thor. And he hasn't skipped leg day. I remember when he started out as Thor, he wasn't that big. Like, this is different Thor.
I don't think this is giving away any spoilers. They do the whole montage with Fat Thor, and then he's training to...
Yeah, that was in the trailer. He went from God bod to dad bod when the guy's narrating. Yeah,
fantastic. Very strange movie, strange narration, but entertaining.
Yeah. I think I kind of like that they're getting a little quirky. You can't take yourself that seriously on your, what is that, the 28th superhero movie? Like,
at least, maybe more.
They got to have some silly ones.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun to watch. My absolute favorite part was the screaming space goats.
Yeah.
And they just kept bringing that back again and again. So anytime it got dark, the next scene would open with screaming space goats, which I really enjoyed.
Yeah, it was a pretty fun movie.
Yeah, so go check it. Write me. Tell me what you think.
Speaking of getting ripped like Thor.
Yeah, speaking of which, let's talk about the supplement creatine.
So what exactly is it? Because I know it's a common one. It's one that you always associate with lifting weights. I guess I do in my mind.
Yeah, I think it's best if you take it in your butt. No, I'm just kidding. No, don't do that.
Let's cue the thing where it's, we're not doctor.
The views and opinions expressed on this show are not meant to be used as medical advice.
Creatine's kind of like an amino acid. It's the most well-known studied supplement. It's the safest one we're aware of. It's usually found in red meat and seafood, and your body stores it as phosphocreatine. When you first start taking certifications to do nutrition coaching and training, they talk a lot about the ATP PCR system, which is adenosine triphosphate phosphocreatine. And ATP is found in the powerhouse of the cell, which is the mitochondria. But there's different ways we can store energy, and that phosphocreatine system is what's responsible for kind of our short burst energy. So marathon runners aren't really tapping into that a ton. So if you guys are distance athletes, you might get some benefit from creatine, but it's probably not something you want to super focus on. But it's primarily hailed as the muscle building king of supplements.
If it's already in food and you can get it naturally, why would some people want to supplement it?
Well, some people, depending on their diet and things like that, genetics and all kinds of other things, they may have a propensity to store less of it. And because of its ability to give you a little extra push, a little extra endurance, especially on heavy lifts and things like that, it can allow for more muscle damage, micro damage that can lead to more growth hormone release and can help build muscle faster. And it just gets tons and tons of nutrients, glycogen, and all kinds of stuff into the muscle cell to help you with your lifts. Now, most of the body's creatine is actually stored in your muscles, so there's trace amounts in the liver, brain, and kidneys. It's primarily going to be found in muscle.
I know that I've heard before, like if people take too much like whey protein or something, it can be taxing on your liver. Is there a similar thing, like overdoing creatine?
I'm sure there's an upper limit. I honestly haven't studied it, and I also know that most people do better with it if they cycle it on and off. So it's not usually something you're taking all year long. And there's all kinds of methods for that. Maybe we'll get into that a little bit later.
Is this a thing that you should take like pre-workout?
It builds up in the system over time, and there's benefits to it both pre and post-workout. So it's similar to L-glutamine. It actually stops or slows down the loss of lean muscle tissue. So that's one of the benefits. So that could be great post a really catabolic workout. And it can also assist with lifts pre-workout. So honestly, wherever you tolerate it best. And again, it is going to build up in your system over time with consistent use. No, it doesn't really matter particularly what time. Now, I mentioned creatine cycling. So typically when starting a creatine cycle, there'll be a loading phase of a little bit more intake at once for 5 to 7 days. And that could be 20 to 30 grams per day. and those are usually split into separate doses. A maintenance phase of 3 to 5 grams per day would then follow, lasting for about 4 to 6 weeks. And then you'd take a couple weeks off, anywhere from 2 weeks to a month, and restart that cycle. So the theory behind the cycling is it keeps your body from getting used to having it artificially. So when you take it regularly, you run the risk of a downregulation of your body responding to it and thus nullifying the results. Similar to melatonin, that's a concern with that if you take too much of it, either your body might downregulate its ability to use it on its own, or it could downregulate its receptive and effectiveness to it. And one other example, crossing over to nutrition from a food standpoint, if you had the same combination of nutrients again and again, sometimes nutrient receptor sites will turn itself off of that combination. It almost becomes numb to it. You can even develop allergies, kind of like we talked about on the other episode 2 weeks ago.
I was curious when we were talking about how you could get it from meat, so I looked it up. And in order to get the recommended amount of creatine, which is 5 grams a day, you would need to eat 2 pounds of beef or 3 pounds of chicken.
Holy crap.
So maybe you shouldn't just get it from meat.
Yeah, probably not.
Well, that's a meal that I feel Vinny Tortovich would be proud of.
Oh, yeah. And Dwayne The Rock Johnson's probably crushing it.
A little bit more expensive than creatine, too.
Oh, yeah.
My breakfast pound of meat, please.
Now, contrary to a common myth, creatine's not a hormone and it's not a drug. Once again, it comes from protein, and it's used similarly to carbohydrates and fats. We were talking a little bit about the fat phosphocreatine cycle. You have the glycolytic system, the phosphorylative system, and then the ATP-PCR system. They're just different methods of getting energy depending on the duration of the exercise. And so those longer term marathon type stuff is going to rely more on fat stores, whereas doing 10 to 12 reps, sets like that, it's going to be a mix between phosphocreatine and some of those other systems. So think of it as another nutrient, another fuel source for the body. And it is safe. It's probably the safest one we know the most about of any supplement.
We started the idea of creatine talking about how it's associated with weightlifting. Now, of course, you're not just going to take this pill and grow muscles. It's not a grow muscles pill. It's meant to assist you, make it so that you can maybe lift more, get more out of your workout, tear more muscle, grow more muscle, right? That's
Exactly.
kind of the logic behind it.
Yeah.
So it's not like this powder's going to give you muscles.
Yeah, no. In fact, it usually makes you swollen and puffy looking, like the Michelin Man. Traditionally, we think about dirty bulking, where people take a bunch of creatine, they just eat any junk carb, whatever they can, to flood the cells with glycogen just to get big. And then when they go through their cutting phase, they lean out, they go on this water protocol and this really strict diet, and it shreds. But during that bulking phase, because there's so much energy stored in the muscle cell, they can lift more weight, do more damage. Now, I don't advocate dirty bulking and cutting. I think long-term you're doing damage to your metabolism. But you can clean bulk, and you can cycle creatine without doing the dirty bulk and use it to help. Hey guys, I wanted to take a minute and talk about a really cool brand that started called Love and Life. They make t-shirts, apparel, and all kinds of stuff. And I bought one of the t-shirts. It's super, super comfortable, and I love the positive message. I think it's important to spread some positivity these days. So hear it from the man himself, Brian Wallace, who started this company. Show him some love. Check out his website, loveandlife.shop.
Growing up, our traditional family vacation was a beach getaway. As a kid, my favorite part was building sandcastles and jumping in the waves. As an adult, my favorite part is watching my own kids do the same, while the waves and sea breeze wash away my stress. These memories are my happy place. Love and Life apparel and accessories is designed to take you to your happy place. Whether it's sassy tees for girls' night out, beach therapy, or sharing your faith. Anytime you want to escape, Love and Life takes you there, one unique shirt at a time. You can be confident that when wearing your Love and Life apparel, you are having a positive influence on yourself and those around you. It's amazing what a shirt can do. Express yourself at loveandlife.shop. That's LUVINLIFE.shop. Follow Love and Life on Facebook and Instagram to be in the loop on new design releases and inspirational content.
Now, we've talked in previous episodes how strength training builds muscle, and the most important part being that micro tearing phase, the stretch portion or the eccentric. So again, with the creatine allowing you to lift heavier, more loads, more repetitions, that means you could do more micro damage on that eccentric. Now, some people have a concern of something called myostatin. Elevated levels of this protein can slow new muscle growth. Some people think hard gainers have more of this. Creatine's been studied for how effective it is on myostatin, and it appears to reduce it. I don't know how conclusive the studies are, but there are some evidence to support that it can help with that, which can potentially lead to more muscle growth. So that's one other avenue it may help.
Let's say you decide, all right, I'm going to give this creatine stuff a try. You start using it. Can you expect to see an improvement in your strength training?
I think over time, again, it cycles on. And as it starts to build up and your body starts integrating it into those muscle cells for lifts, I think over time it could increase the amount, the duration, and the intensity that you can work out, for sure. When your body naturally will deplete and use up your ATP at a certain amount. So if you could top those stores off with creatine supplementation, it could just give you that extra edge to go a little bit further. Now, there may be some benefit to using creatine with age-related muscle loss, such as sarcopenia, which can begin around age 40. The more sedentary you are, the more that effect can take place. And it's suggested that up to 1% year after year increase after the age of 50. So taking it with some strength training can really help slow that sarcopenia. And sarcopenia, which is like a protein loss, eventually leads to osteopenia because protein is important for bone structure as well. It's not just calcium and things like that. Protein has a lot to do with that.
That's good to know.
Yeah. So there are some potential side effects of creatine, primarily bloating and stomach discomfort. So you might want to back off your dose if you're experiencing a ton of that. And there is a population of people who creatine may not be a good fit for. What did you find on that, Joe?
Nursing mothers. Apparently
mothers.
a baby has enough.
Can you imagine pounding creatine? I guess there's somebody out there. There are some CrossFit moms killing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, right up into, in fact, a good friend of mine, he's a dietitian. She was doing Olympic lifting like the week of delivery. And you'll work with your doctor on that to see if it's safe for you. But yeah, probably not a good idea to take creatine then. What else, Joe?
There's no evidence to say like other performance enhancing things when it comes to weight training that it makes you more aggressive. Apparently that was a rumor that was going around.
Oh, like steroids or something?
But there haven't been any studies that show any direct causal link between creatine and increased aggression.
Yeah.
Roid rage from creatine.
And then I would think anybody with kidney and liver concerns probably want to not try the creatine.
Yeah, that was on the list. And heart problems.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a number of conditions where it may not be a good idea. And always feel free to check with your doctor before starting any supplement.
I was really surprised last time I went to my doctor for my physical. I just let him know that I was taking fish oil and what was it? Magnesium. And he was like, oh, okay, let me write that down. They're really interested in that. They want to know what you're on.
Oh.
And how it interacts because I'm taking blood pressure medicine. So he wanted to make sure that it didn't cause anything that could make that less or more effective.
Yeah.
And mess with the dosage, that kind of stuff. I didn't even think of that until I saw my doctor, but they actually do care what supplements you're on when you go take your physical because they want to know how it's going to interact with everything and it helps them figure out what's going on with you.
Yeah. And when I sit down with a client, I always ask in the consult what medications are they taking.
Yeah.
Just to have a better idea of what may or may not be a good recommendation. And I always have them check with their doctor before starting anything.
And then I asked my doctor, like, hey, should I be taking a multivitamin? I'm 40 plus now. And he's like, unless you just want expensive pee.
Which most of them, that is what they lead to. But if you get the highly absorbable forms like B12 that's methylated and all that good stuff, they can be helpful. But most of the ones you find at the grocery store, absolute nonsense. So take creatine and look like Chris Hemsworth.
So speaking of Thor, there's this article, the guy that trained Thor for the Thor movies, his trainer's name's Luke Zuki. And there's this internet article that he basically said creatine and whey protein are a waste of time if you want to build muscle and burn fat. So he's the guy that helped him create that CenterFit app that we were talking about earlier.
There's always at least one outlier. But I'm not a fan of whey protein.
But I think if you're Chris Hemsworth, you're probably getting your protein from like naturally sourced wild oceans caught cod that somebody caught for you.
And flew in with a helicopter fresh.
That morning. Yes.
That morning.
And cooked directly for you immediately.
So I think if you're not getting enough protein, it would be difficult to have the nutrients needed to build muscle. But bulking to put on a ton of muscle, whey protein probably wouldn't be my first choice. That's interesting that he specifically said whey.
Yeah.
But
also the CenterFit, so that CenterFit app, this same article is mentioning how they've gotten in a little bit of hot water for misleading results, like saying you can look like Chris Hemsworth, like Thor.
After 6 weeks of using our app.
Yeah, but they basically had the story, and it was like Chris Hemsworth's stunt double gained 22 pounds of muscle and achieved 5% body fat in 8 weeks.
Wow. That's intense.
Yeah. But I think this is like a Biggest Loser situation, right? This is all this guy did to make that happen. I mean, there's a lot of gimmicks out there, but I guess to sum up, creatine's pretty well studied. Definitely safe-ish.
Absolutely.
Like anything in life, don't overdo it.
Yeah, I think it depends on your goals. I personally don't take it.
If your goal isn't to get big and push your body to the limits and get more reps,
and you don't have any sarcopenia concerns, probably don't need to add that expense. But if you want to try it, as long as your doctor's cool with it and your body's responding well to it, I think it's one of the safest things to try. So I'm not 100% against it. I'm also not going out of my way to include it for every client. But certainly if you have muscle gain, performance goals, give it a shot. Tell us what you think. Should we include some screaming goat sounds in this episode?
Finally, a sustainable approach to meeting your health goals. The Fire Within app, available now on Apple and Android. What you get is an intro to strength training guide, comprehensive exercise library with over 200 exercises, a comprehensive nutrition health transformation course, a 6-week meal plan, over 70 recipes, a 6-week health redemption strength training course. This is for use with people with equipment, and then the same course modified for body weight exercises. You'll also receive a 6-week Inferno Abs Core supplemental program. If you download our free app right now, you'll get access to the podcast, exercise and app quick start, recipes, and more. For a $29.99 a month subscription, you'll get the health transformation course, full access to the exercise library, the weighted course, the body weight course, the Inferno Abs, recipes, and the podcast. So what are you waiting for? Try it now for free today. Download the Fire Within app.
Thanks for tuning in today. I hope you got a lot of value out of today's episode. If you did, go check us out at firewithinnf.com and sign up for Refuel, a weekly email with recipes, videos, and tips to stoke the fire within. Also, you can join the Fire Within community by being added to our Facebook group, and don't forget to follow us on social media.